Hey there, this is Teri Murrison with Where to Find Bread. Welcome to Fresh Bread, where honesty meets hope. Because if you're still breathing, it's not too late. This morning, I had a major aha moment. I was reading the newspaper about the budget crisis in Idaho. Revenues have not come in where they need to, and so the governor has instituted some pretty severe budget cuts, and the legislature is asking for more. The article it was talking about that, and comments on the article were, the range of people who are saying, get rid of the governor, get rid of the legislature, get rid of state employees, cut, cut, cut. And one employee made a comment, which was a smart one because it was based on his knowledge of being a state employee. He said, if you cut the budget, basically you're going to have to cut services. People don't think about that a lot. So I wrote to him, and I worked for the state for 10 years, and I said, he was apologetic. And I said, no, you're not biased, you're informed. And then I proceeded to make some negative comments about the manufactured crisis that the state finds itself in because the legislature made some huge tax cuts last year and caused revenues to be suppressed because they were giving out these tax breaks. And I went on and on about things. It was not pretty. I eventually took it down because I didn't want to get him in trouble, and he could have gotten in trouble. Anyway, this morning I read a story that kind of stopped me in my tracks. The story was about Moses and the children of Israel, originally taken to Egypt to escape a famine. And they were there for about 400 years, and they became slaves eventually. They originally went there when Joseph was there. Times were good. Joseph was respected. But over the years, their population grew and they became resented, and they were slaves. They had an awful life there. They had a lot to complain about. They were treated very poorly. So they began to cry out, and Moses was raised up to lead them out. And he did. On that trip, God parted the waters of the Red Sea. The Red Sea came crashing down on the chariots and the horses and utterly destroyed them. The children of Israel saw that miracle. And then they spent the next 40 years wandering in the desert without a home. It was hot. It was dusty. I'm sure it was sandy. It was not a fun time. And they complained. First of all, they didn't have any food. Their storehouses ran down. So they complained. They got manna from heaven. They got quail, but they still grumbled. They didn't have access to Moses, so they were disenfranchised. They were wandering. They were helpless and unhappy. They had a lot to complain about, and really reasons to complain. So I read that this morning, and I thought about that. And then I read in the New Testament, and the section that I read was, how many times are we supposed to forgive? And the admonition is to forgive people 70 times 7. And when I put that together with the grumbling of the children of Israel and the admonition to forgive when things are done against you, that would say, that they should forgive the Egyptians. That would say that they should forgive their leaders. That would say that they should forgive, God, certainly, because they didn't have pizza, they didn't have lasagna, they didn't have all those really things that they would have liked to have had there in the desert. Well, when I thought about how that might apply to me, I remembered the professor and I left California, and these were hard economic times. We had no retirement. We didn't own a home. We had no future. And so we came to Idaho. I worked for the state for 10 years, and it was not fun. The agency that I led was going through all kinds of awful things. The legislature was trying to, they were pretty rough. Our clients were rough. It was a difficult 10 years for me. All of those things too that I complained about, the budgets were slashed. But even as that was happening, I can see that it was a good thing because we built pensions, we bought a house and sold it for a profit. We just bettered ourselves. We spent those 10 years making things better for ourselves so that now we have a nice home. We have a comfortable retirement. So really, those 10 years with the state was like wandering in the desert. Well, what if I didn't complain about those 10 years? What if I didn't complain about the legislature? What if I didn't complain about the governor? What if I had appreciated, what if I do appreciate what was provided for me so that I'm secure now? So today, after thinking about all of that, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the big picture, just like the children of Israel should have done. Because, yes, it was terrible, but they could have been left in Egypt. They could have been left in the desert. And in fact, most of them were. So I'm just led to ask you, what is it that you've been grumbling about? What is it that you might forgive if you weren't so intent on thinking about the things, the short-term things that maybe will make sense in a larger context down the road? I'm Teri Murrison. You've been listening to Fresh Bread, and I am inviting you, just think about it.